Hello everybody, we are back at you with another video. Double prizes this time as I am making up for my lack of a video for July, and this month, August, I am going to combine July and August into a single video. I will be analyzing my financial performance for my sports card store, largely on eBay, and I will release a separate video with my personal collection pickups, which there are some fun ones in there for the past 2 months. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm using my homemade dashboard to analyze financial performance in a few different ways. Several improvements that I got done for these past 2 months, namely some tax information, tax planning that we're going to get to later on in this video. Disclaimer, I am not a CPA, I am not a financial advisor, and ultimately I pass all of these numbers to my certified tax accountant dude, and he makes sure that they're valid and sends them to the IRS. So, with the disclaimer over, let's jump in. 2 months of data here. Got two methods for cash flow accounting, aka my bottom line. Up first on the cash method, big payout there on Tuesday, July 1st. Really big payout, starting the month well in the cash department. And by this method, up about $693 in positive cash flow for the business in the months of July and August. So really encouraging there. And if you look at my net, month by month, much better August, and much of that can be attributed to spending less and selling more. Now, accrual is going to paint a different story. This is basically looking at transaction day by day or by transaction, whereas with cash, I got a huge payout from eBay on that Tuesday on July 1st. Accrual is going to actually sync up with the transactions I'm making. So this is maybe a more intuitive way to understand how the month went in terms of what I'm spending versus what I'm earning back in the form of sales. In this one, really the biggest thing here was a massive collection purchase of a 2012 Topps collection, including most of the full Series 1, Series 2, and Update Gold parallels, as well as some really nifty short prints that I hope to grade a handful of those and sell those later on this year. So you can see here, I was really positive cash in the cash accounting, and as far as accrual goes, just barely over zero. Again, my business goals, really trying to reduce that profit, really trying to reinvest a bunch, and then also keep some stuff for myself by paying out of the excess. And so with this accrual method, you can see this big purchase at the end of July really made my month of July look bad from a cash perspective. But because in reality I was paid out on July 1st, the cash accounting method tells a different story. So when you're analyzing your business, always good to have a few different ways to measure things, and then you can decide for yourself how you are actually doing. Now, I do want to click here. We won't spend a crazy amount of time on this. We'll have an end of the year video, but year to date, if we're looking at my cash, we're down about $60 on the business. So that's great. That's pretty darn close to my target. Now, I'm awaiting a pretty significant payout from eBay on my next payout scheduled for, I think, next week. And so by accrual, we're actually looking a few $100s in the green, which is good. Now, the other thing I've been adding to this dashboard is tax planning. Again, I'm not a certified tax guy, but this is very helpful. And so I'm trying to be consistent with typical retail and inventory tracking, and yeah, basically just retail financial performance. And so you can see here a few different categories. This will surely clean up. As mentioned, I'm doing accrual on this. Why? Well, it's easier from the source data that I have, but I'm going to change this to cash accounting because that's actually how I file with the IRS. But starting up business performance, we're looking at just over $14,000 in revenue year to date in 2025. Cost of goods sold, this is an estimate. Really, this has to be locked in at the end of the year. That's how the IRS measures it. I'm estimating that of the amount that I've spent on goods, which is higher than this, I've spent roughly $6,000 on the goods that have sold. So my gross profit is looking like an excellent 58%, $8,300 plus, but that doesn't factor in the operating costs. So the good news here is I'm selling my items for more than what I'm purchasing them for. But we have to factor in operating costs, and in online sales, e-commerce, that's a huge chunk. You think about eBay fees, you think about shipping, all of that classifies as an operating expense. So I spent just over $6,000 on operating costs. That's just a coincidence that it's close to my estimated COGS. Of this $6,000, close to $1,400 is on overhead, such as my eBay store subscription, my supplies that I don't tie to individual transactions. And so that's about 9.8% of this revenue figure. I've also received a few adjustments. This is kind of weird. Probably the best bucket to put it is here, but this is like reimbursements for, say I refunded a buyer and then I get a reimbursement on fees from eBay. Or different things like that. So a really small fraction of that is adjusted, and so my net profit, this is calculating in my goods sold and my operating expenses, is about 16.6%, which I suppose I'm happy with. Again, I'm doing this really as a hobby, where I treat my time as a hobby and my money as a business, and yeah, I do have to do all of this stuff come tax season next April. And then the other thing to keep in mind is I do have, according to my estimate of goods sold, well, that means I have just over $2,000 in inventory that I'm actively trying to sell. So that is worth something. It hasn't sold. I wish I could sell it all right now, but we have sales cycles and it takes some time here. Cash flow is a different equation, and so in terms of cash in, again, using the accrual method, we're checking in at just over $14,000 business cash flow for the year. In terms of expenses, all expenses, including this inventory that isn't written off from a tax perspective or isn't deducted from a tax perspective, but is still cash that I have to spend to get that, we're looking at plus $286 in cash. Great. That's what we want. We want this number to be positive. I did start out the year with cash, so not the end of the world if it's slightly negative, but this is a great sign, especially with inventory remaining to sell. Now, I'm trying to use the hobby to fund the hobby, and I've spent $1,200 this year on personal collection items, and that's in line with my goals. And also, I have personal income, aka credit card rewards, that I've used towards these purchases. So if you factor in my net cash from the business, my personal collection expenses, and my personal income from credit card rewards, we're sitting at about negative $656 in net cash overall for both the personal and business expenses combined. Not wonderful, but really hoping to have a strong last 4 months of the year to get this number ideally back to zero. Really, that's my goal, is to get this number back to zero. And then if you think about tangible value, the personal collection and the inventory and this net cash add up to kind of a business value of $32.75. So you could think of it as I have spent $656 to get $1,200 of value for my personal collection and $2,000 plus for my inventory. That's maybe one way to think about it or conceptualize it. Anyways, enough on that. Let's jump quickly to revenue for the last 2 months. Well, heck, this is showing year to date, but that's probably a more helpful view. And so you can see here, pretty solid August, weaker July, but I was busy a lot in July. And generally speaking here, we're floating over $1,500 a month stable in revenue through the first 8 months of the year. So pretty stoked about that. I'll go ahead and flip this filter back to July and August as we move to costs. I kind of hinted at this earlier, but spent a lot in July and then not as much in August here. Got this broken down. This isn't the most handy thing just yet, but have yet to make this pretty. So we got a few things that need to show up here that aren't here right now. But the pretty chart, not so pretty chart, whatever you think of it, it does show the trend that I spent a lot more in July than I did in August, which explains why my numbers are looking better in August. All right, let's jump to the personal collection. Let's see the cards that I got for my PC. I spent $440 across the 2 months. That's pretty good. The bulk of that was in one single card. Picked up a 1/1 Superfractor Brenton Doyle 2025 Topps Chrome. Super cool card. And funny enough, I'll get into this in my personal collection video recap. I actually traded this card to Brenton himself. He gave me a signed bat, which I think is really cool. Brenton is starting out his card collection. We've kind of exchanged ideas on cards a couple of times throughout the year. He's a super cool dude, so we came up with this little trade, and I have a signed bat that I'm looking at off screen, and he got a cool card. And then beyond that, really everything else is just typical Rockies. So you can see Pat Neshek. He actually did play for the Rockies, better known as a Twin or a Cardinal or a Philly. Some real fun cards at a low cost for him. And then a bunch of Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle, one Chase Dolander card, Mickey Moniak also on the Rockies, and Sean Bouchard. So nothing crazy here outside of the 1/1 that I traded for a bat. Okay, let's jump into the last tab. This is actually going to take a few minutes to load. It's crunching a lot of numbers in the background. One of these days, I'll probably tidy this up, but the intent of this tab is to show me transactionally, so literally transaction by transaction, how much am I profiting for that order. So this is going to try to pull in fees. It's going to try to pull in shipping labels, as well as the revenue that we're getting from these cards. It's also going to plot these just to get a feel for efficiency. I think this is really helpful for understanding price point on eBay when thinking about what you will get in return. So this curve is getting at the efficiency of the sale, with the different colors related to the final value fee that's fixed applied to that individual part of the order. So quite practically, we know that eBay fees are typically negative 30 cents or negative 40 cents per transaction, negative 30 cents if it's under $10, negative 40 cents if it's over $10. So anything that is not one of those two numbers, anything that's lower than that, means it was part of a multi-card order. And so generally speaking, yellow is good. And this checks out our efficiency, which is this y-axis, is going up compared to if we were just selling singles. So best performing sales of the month. We'll show you the worst as well. Kind of a couple bummers up front, but Jose Altuve, 2011 Topps Update Gold, PSA 9. Someone bought this. I thought I had it listed maybe $30 more than what it's worth. I listed it at $250 plus shipping. Someone clicked that Buy It Now button. I didn't even have best offer enabled. And after all the fees and everything, quick comment, you can see this label cost average is 0. Well, that's because I didn't buy the label through eBay. One of these days, I will be factoring in all of my pirate ship labels that I buy outside of eBay, and I'll be coming up with some average to apply to all of these zeros. But for now, it's just not calculated in there. So just a slight error there. But this is all characterization. We got to remember, this is not auditable information here. This is me trying to analyze my business performance. So made a good amount of money on that one. This was a card that I bought raw and then graded it and came out well ahead on the sale there, factoring in all of the costs. I also have lately been getting into selling sealed wax. I typically don't open products, but I have been finding some good deals on sealed product. And so this one, after everything, made just over $159. And I can tell you from a cost basis, I paid less than that, all things in. So good sale there. Up next, Clayton Kershaw. This was another one I was kind of bummed to see go. I listed this, again, $20 over what I thought it was worth, and someone clicked the buy button and took that off my hands. And then up next here, some sealed wax. You can see, funny enough, just some scatter on these three. So same exact product, 3 different times that I listed it. One sold at probably the top of the market. I got $159 when it was all said and done. One sold slightly lower, listed $10 below that. And then one, actually, because I was trying to just get some cash back into my business, I actually accepted an offer of $150 for this one. So that's something to know. If you're buying from a seasoned seller, they might just want to shed inventory. And on this, I was doing pretty well on some of my other sales, and I wanted to inject this cash back into the business. So probably took a slight loss on average for that exact product, but given my situation with that huge Topps collection, 2012 Topps collection, I decided, hey, I'll take a slight loss on this because I'm putting it into what I thought was better money at the time. And then also another loss I took. This was something I've held in my personal collection for like three plus years at this point, but decided to sell an unauthenticated Randy Johnson autographed rookie card that I had bought from a very reputable dealer in the industry, but decided to sell that, made just over $60. Next one, kind of fun, 1,700 cards. I was able to get $50 from that. I love shedding bulk, and so while someone could probably do some work to get better value than I did from this sale, I love getting rid of that many low-end cards that really in the long term are not worth too much to me. So that was another, $50 cash back in the business. So that's a snapshot of the high performers. As you can see from this, pretty much all of these are, sealed products, rookie cards of key players, bulk lots, some lower end graded or like still nice, but nothing crazy graded cards, raw rookies, and then some complete sets, but nothing wild. Still good though, good quality. If you flip the script and you look at the lowest profit per item, this is where we're getting into the question of, should I even be doing this? And I have decided, yes, I should. Why? A, this is a hobby. B, this is awesome marketing to just get my name out there, to build feedback, to get stuff to other collectors. And I've kind of streamlined the listing and packaging process where it really doesn't add up too much. So yeah, my profit per hour is probably abysmal on these, where I'm making 70 cents per order or so, but it's all calculated. It's helping me in the algorithm, and at the end of the day, I'm doing okay. Not too worried about it. So I have a lot of these, and these show up on the plot here as just really inefficient. And so what this means is, like this Sandy Alcantara, the gross sale was $175. But after you factor in everything, I only took 28% of that back into my pocket, which is really bad. Basically, like one way to think of it is, of all the work that I'm doing and to list this, to sell this, to close the deal, to accept offers, I'm only getting 28% of the sale price back in my pocket, and that does not include how much I paid originally for this rookie card. Now, I price everything and I accept offers on everything based kind of on what I paid. I at least have that in mind, but this is horribly inefficient, and if I factored in that cost of goods for this one, might be teetering negative on this sale. I don't think I was this one. I got it real cheap, but anyways, besides the point. The whole thing is we want to move up the ladder here. So this is just an example. Yeah, the price was $189, but I sold it with other stuff, one other item, I believe. And so this one actually came out to an efficiency of 62%. So I didn't lose a lot of that energy, just to the eBay fees and the shipping and all that. The really efficient ones we're getting at multi-card orders and slightly higher dollar items. And so this one was part of a multi-card order. It was a $5 card, and you got 88% of that money back in my pocket. As we move up the ladder, that's about the plateau. Well, why is that the plateau? eBay typically takes 12.5%, 13%. So you're not going to get any higher than this selling on eBay. All of the data here that you see is from eBay. It doesn't include any of my offline sales, such as on Reddit. So we want to be hovering around this line, but you can't always do it, and there is at least some value that you can justify selling these lower end cards at lower efficiency. So anyways, that's it. That's what we have for July and August, hopefully I'll be on a better routine, getting monthly videos out in the future. Stay tuned for my personal collection keeps, because in addition to this list that I showed you, I'm also going to be flipping through cards that I got autographed in person in July and August 2025. And hint, there is a future Hall of Famer that is part of that haul, in the in-person autograph haul. So we'll see you on that video. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.